The bitter winter wind tore through Harper Watson's threadbare coat as she hurried down the empty Chicago streets after her double shift at Joe's Diner. Her fingers, raw and cracked from 10 hours of washing dishes, clutched the crumpled bills and coins that were supposed to cover tomorrow's bus fare. The rent was already a week overdue, and her landlord's daily threats echoed louder than the wind whistling between the buildings. The streetlights flickered overhead, throwing fractured shadows across the snow-dusted sidewalk as Harper turned into the alley behind Franklin Avenue, a shortcut she'd walked countless times. But tonight, something felt off. The silence seemed heavier, the darkness denser, pressing in from all sides. She nearly tripped over him. At first, Harper thought it was a pile of discarded clothes. Then she saw the polished leather shoes, the faint rise and fall of breathing. Heart hammering, she crouched down and gently turned the figure over. The boy couldn't have been more than 14, his skin deathly pale, his lips bluish. Beneath his expensive cashmere coat was a crisp private school uniform that looked wildly out of place in this part of town. "Hey, can you hear me?" she whispered, her nursing student instincts instantly kicking in. No visible injuries, but his pulse was faint, skin clammy, shallow breathing, the telltale signs of severe hypoglycemia. As she fumbled through his pockets searching for ID, her hand closed around a sleek smartphone, so knew it probably cost more than her monthly rent. The lock screen glowed with one name in emergency contacts. Dad. Just one word. No name. No number. No clue that the single call would alter the course of her life forever. She hesitated only a second before pressing the button. The line connected almost instantly. Nicholas. The voice that answered was low, accented, and carried a tone that was both commanding and unervingly calm. This isn't Nicholas, Harper stammered. "My name's Harper. I found a boy unconscious on Franklin Avenue. I think you might be his father." The silence that followed was long enough for Harper to wonder if the call had dropped. Then, is he breathing? The voice had lost its polish, hardening to steel. "Yes. Weak pulse, unresponsive. I think it's hypoglycemia. I'm a nursing student. His blood sugar must have crashed." "Do not move him," the man ordered sharply. "Do not call anyone else. I'm 10 minutes away. Keep him warm." The line went dead. Exactly 8 minutes later, a black SUV glided silently to the curb. 3 men stepped out, 2 forming a perimeter, the third striding toward her with purpose. Even from a distance, Harper felt the authority radiating off him. Tall, impeccably dressed, movements controlled and deliberate, he was the kind of man who didn't ask for attention. He commanded it. "Mr. Blackstone," he introduced curtly, kneeling beside his son. "You said hypoglycemia?" Harper nodded, watching as he produced a small case from his coat pocket with practiced efficiency. "Nicholas has type 1 diabetes. Since he was 8, he murmured, injecting glucagon into the boy's arm. His composure was surgical, emotion suppressed under years of discipline. Within seconds, color returned to Nicholas's face. His eyelids fluttered. "Dad," he mumbled weakly. "Forgot my kit after practice." Mr. Blackstone's jaw tightened. Relief barely masked beneath his stern tone. "We'll discuss that later." As Nicholas steadied, Harper rose to leave. Her good deed was done. But before she could take a step, his voice stopped her cold. "Wait." The single word froze her in place. "Thank you," he said, standing to face her. His gaze scanned every exhausted detail. Her worn diner uniform, the frayed coat, the dignity that refused to bow. Not many would have stopped. "Anyone would have," she replied softly. "Not in this neighborhood. Not at this hour." His voice left no room for argument. He reached into his pocket, and Harper instinctively took a step back, pride flaring. "I don't need a reward." "It's not a reward." He extended a heavy card embossed with only a phone number in silver. "It's an opportunity. Call this tomorrow morning." As the SUV disappeared into the night, Harper stood in the cold, staring at the card in her shaking hand. Something told her that number would change everything, though she couldn't yet tell if it would be salvation or ruin. Sleep was impossible. The card seemed to glow on her nightstand, whispering possibilities. At dawn, Exhaustion and curiosity won. She dialed the number. A crisp female voice answered immediately. "Miss Watson? Mr. Blackstone is expecting you at 11. The address has been sent to your phone." 2 hours later, Harper stood before wrought iron gates that guarded a mansion so vast it looked like it belonged to film. Security checked her ID before waving her through a courtyard lined with marble fountains and manicured hedges. Inside, she was ushered into a study larger than her entire apartment. Mr. Blackstone sat behind a desk that looked older than the city itself. "Miss Watson," he greeted without preamble. "Nicholas's condition is volatile. His previous medical companion recently resigned. I need someone with both competence and discretion." He named a salary. Harper blinked, sure she'd misheard. It was more than she'd make in 3 years at the diner. "You want me to be your son's nurse?" "Medical monitor," he corrected smoothly. "Nicholas resents constant supervision, but his condition demands it. You'd live here, accompany him to events, ensure compliance with his treatment. In exchange, you'll have room, board, and financial stability." Before she could respond, the door burst open. Nicholas, awake, healthy, and every bit a teenager, stormed in. "I don't need a babysitter," he snapped. "It was one mistake." 3 this month, his father countered. "Last night could have killed you. This isn't up for debate." Nicholas shot Harper a venomous glare. "Great. So she's my prison guard now." "She's my personal assistant," Mr. Blackstone corrected coldly, "who happens to study nursing. No one will think twice." Nicholas stormed out, slamming the door. Blackstone exhaled slowly, the faintest trace of weariness softening his features. "There's something else you should know," he said, opening a drawer and sliding a thick file toward her. "Nicholas's mother was murdered 3 years ago. A rival's attempt to reach me. Since then, his stress has worsened his condition." Harper's heart twisted. He needs stability and counseling. He inclined his head slightly. "That's what I'm hoping you can give him." By the end of the week, Harper moved into a quiet suite in the east wing of the Blackstone estate. The opulence felt surreal, her few possessions swallowed by a world of wealth and quiet surveillance. Mrs. Chun, the kind housekeeper, guided her through the household's strict rhythms. "Mr. Blackstone may seem cold," Mrs. Chun confided one night, "but everything he does is for Nicholas." In her first week, Harper learned the mansion had rules, some spoken, others understood. Certain rooms were always locked. Some staff were clearly trained security, not servants. And on specific nights when meetings took place, she and Nicholas were to remain unseen. One evening, while tutoring Nicholas at the kitchen table, Harper overheard 2 guards whispering about a shipment and the Donovan family. Nicholas's warning glance silenced her curiosity. "Don't ask questions," he said later. "Dad's business is complicated. The less you know, the safer you are." One morning, Harper passed Mr. Blackstone in the hallway, his knuckles bruised, his expression unreadable. She recognized the marks instantly from her ER training. She said nothing. "Nicholas has a field trip today," she said instead. "I've packed extra sensors." His eyes met hers briefly, grateful for her silence. "Take Ramirez with you. Protocol." It was a life of quiet danger hidden under luxury, and Harper was beginning to understand how deep the shadows in this house ran. 6 weeks later, that shadow took shape. Returning from an appointment with Nicholas, Harper noticed a black sedan, following them through 3 turns. "Nicholas," she murmured, "text your father's team. 3 cars back. Black Audi." His fingers flew over his phone. "This isn't the first time," he admitted quietly. "Some of Dad's rivals like to remind him they're watching." 2 unmarked SUVs appeared minutes later, boxing the sedan and before it vanished. That evening, Harper was summoned to the study. Mr. Blackstone replayed security footage, her noticing the tail. "You saw it instantly," he said. "Most wouldn't. You develop instincts when you walk home alone at night," she replied simply. Something in his gaze shifted. Respect, maybe even trust. "The Donovan family is hosting a charity gala," he said. "You and Nicholas will accompany me." The Blackstone limousine glided through downtown Chicago toward the glittering Donovan Charity Gala, a fortress of crystal chandeliers and veiled hostility. Harper smoothed the silver gown that had been delivered to her room that morning, still uncomfortable in silk and diamonds. Nicholas, in his tuxedo, adjusted his insulin pump discreetly. "You clean up nice," he teased. "So do you," she smiled back, though her nerves were taut as violin strings. When they entered the ballroom, conversations paused for a fraction of a second, long enough for Harper to realize that Alexander Blackstone wasn't merely wealthy. He was feared. "Smile," he murmured to her as they descended the marble steps. "It unsettles them." Harper obeyed, her eyes scanning the crowd. Politicians, investors, faces from glossy magazines, and a few looked far too dangerous for polite company. Halfway through dinner, Nicholas excused himself for a restroom break. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Harper's stomach tightened. She rose quietly. The corridor outside was empty, except for muffled music leaking from the ballroom. She rounded a corner and froze. 2 men in black suits were dragging Nicholas toward an exit, a needle glinting in one man's hand. "Hey!" Before she even thought, Harper grabbed a serving tray and swung it with all her strength. It crashed into one man's jaw. He crumpled. The other turned, knife flashing. She caught his wrist mid-swing. The reflexes drilled from years of dodging rough customers and worse, and slammed her knee into his gut. The knife clattered to the floor. Nicholas stumbled free, shaking. Within seconds, the hallway flooded with Blackstone's security team. The men vanished into chaos, but not before one shouted, "Donovan sends his regards." Mr. Blackstone appeared moments later, face carved from ice. "What happened?" Harper explained, breathless. His jaw flexed once. Then he turned to his guards. "Lock it down." He walked Nicholas out himself, hand firm on his son's shoulder. For the first time, Harper saw something raw in his eyes. Fear. That night, the mansion transformed into a fortress. Security doubled. Phone calls whispered through locked doors. Harper didn't sleep. At dawn, she found Mr. Blackstone standing by the window, staring into the snow. "They were trying to send me a message," he said quietly. "Nicholas isn't safe here anymore." He turned to her. "I need you to take him away." Harper blinked. "Away? Where?" "There's a cabin north of the city. Ramirez will drive you. You'll stay there until I call. You're the only one I trust to keep him alive." She opened her mouth to protest, but the look in his eyes stopped her. It wasn't an order. It was a plea. 3 hours later, Harper and Nicholas were miles from the city, deep in snow-covered woods. The cabin was modest, quiet, stocked with supplies. For 2 days, they lived like ghosts. Nicholas studied. Harper cooked and monitored his glucose levels. The silence of the forest pressed close, broken only by the crackle of fire. On the third night, Nicholas finally spoke. "Dad used to smile," he said softly. "Before Mom died, he built everything, companies, power. But after she was gone, he built walls instead." Harper set a hand on his shoulder. "Walls protect people, but they also trap them." He looked at her. "You're not scared of him, are you?" "Not anymore." She smiled faintly. "He's just a man trying to save his son." That same night, headlights pierced the trees. Ramirez burst through the door. "They found us." Gunfire erupted outside. Harper pulled Nicholas to the floor, her heart pounding. She'd only ever seen violence in movies, but instinct and adrenaline took over. "Back door, go!" she shouted. They sprinted through the snow toward the truck, bullets slicing through branches. Ramirez fired back, buying them seconds. Nicholas stumbled, clutching his arm, grazed. "Keep pressure on it." Harper yelled, half dragging him to the vehicle. As they sped away, the cabin exploded behind them, a deafening blast that painted the night sky orange. Harper's hands shook on the wheel. "They weren't trying to kidnap you," she said hoarsely. "They were trying to kill you." Nicholas's voice was small. To hurt him. By dawn, they reached a safe house in Michigan, guarded by federal agents. Within hours, Blackstone arrived by helicopter, fury and relief warring in his expression. He pulled Nicholas into an embrace, tight, wordless. Then he turned to Harper. "You saved my son twice. he said quietly. And you nearly died for it. I just did what anyone would. No, he interrupted. Not anyone. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the ruthless billionaire and the girl who had nothing but courage. Finally, he exhaled. I built an empire to control everything, but I can't control what matters most. Not anymore. Nicholas, bandaged but smiling weakly, looked between them. You should tell her thank you, properly. Blackstone almost smiled. He's right. Weeks later, after the Donovans were arrested and the chaos settled, Harper returned to her tiny apartment, barely changed except for the bouquet, waiting on her table. Inside the envelope, a check large enough to erase her debts, fund her nursing degree, and a note in precise handwriting. You once said anyone would have stopped. You were wrong. Thank you for saving my son and reminding me what loyalty truly means. Hey, Blackstone. She stared at it for a long time, tears welling. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Nicholas. Dad says we owe you dinner. Don't argue. She laughed softly, wiping her eyes. Maybe for the first time in years. Life didn't feel impossible. 6 months later, Harper graduated top of her class. As she stepped off the stage, applause erupted from the audience. In the front row sat Nicholas, healthy, grinning, and beside him, Alexander Blackstone, smiling without his walls. When she reached them, he extended his hand. Congratulations, Miss Watson. Thank you, she said, shaking it. He hesitated, then added quietly, Harper. Her name and his voice, warm, unguarded, meant more than all the wealth in the world. The boy she had saved was alive. The man who had once ruled from shadows had finally stepped into the light. And Harper Watson, the waitress who took the wrong alley one freezing night, had unknowingly saved them both.